What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of MUT Tips. My name is Sean Taylor from the Made Up Theater, and let's jump into today's topic, questions in improv. So generally, questions in improv can be somewhat divisive because many teachers, including myself, are more prone to tell new students to use statements as opposed to ask questions, because asking questions can sometimes delay progression, and it shows that, the characters on stage aren't really characters, they're more so the improvisers not sure what's happening. And as time progresses, we're a little bit more lenient on that rule, as with most rules, like stranger scenes or transaction and teaching scenes. Once you know the fundamentals and concepts of improvisation, then you can start to break certain rules that the teachers might tell you to obey at first. So questions in improv, how can we use them effectively? So let's start with questions aimed at getting specifics in an improvised scene. If I were to go up to my scene partner and ask, "What are you holding in your hand?" At that point, I've delivered to them a simple choice. I've told them that they're holding something in their hand, but it wasn't filled with information at all, right? I didn't deliver it with a specific tone or emotional voice. I just said, "What are you holding in your hand?" Therefore, my scene partner has a difficult job. They're like, "I could be holding anything in my hand right now." And thus, we might play hacky sack with this idea, not actually name it for a few minutes, and thus the audience is left a little bit disappointed. But I can deliver that question with some type of emotional choice as a way to solidify somewhat what that idea could be. So I might say, "What are you holding in your hand, son?" At that point, I've established myself as a dad, and my son is my scene partner. I'm angry, which means I've established that I'm mad about something that they might be holding in their hand. So maybe it's like a dirty magazine, or maybe it's keys to my car, and he's trying to take it for a joyride, anything like that. I might say, "What are you holding in your hand?" And at that point, I'm a little flirty with my scene partner, and they might be holding, a love note at that point, or flowers, or maybe even a wedding ring, anything like that. By putting an emotional voice behind a question, you actually give your partner information, which makes it a specific choice. Some other great questions to ask within the scenes are questions that bring clarity to the scene. The audience starts to understand stuff that's happening. The improvisers start to understand what's happening. Sometimes I'll be in a scene and I'm a little bit unclear on certain, characters' choices and motivations and points of view. And I use questions as a way to kind of probe them a little bit so I understand them, and thus knowing how they feel and how they are, it can influence my choices as well. So if I were to go up to a scene partner and say, "Hey, do you want to dance?" It establishes that we're at a school dance, maybe prom, and I'm kind of getting information about how this character feels about me just by asking a simple question, "Do you want to dance?" If they say yes, then I'm like, "Oh, cool, that means we have a positive relationship and, he or she likes me." If they say no, then at that point I'm like, "Oh, okay," and then I go and sulk in the corner, I start to cry, and it allows me to give a specific emotional choice. And then I know a little bit about how that character feels about me. And that's what we want the audience to understand as well, is what are the relationships on stage? And we might need to ask questions to truly understand them. You might go up to someone and say, "Hey, do you not like me or something?" That kind of can help bring clarity to the scene. Or "Hey, I noticed you were late to my party. Hey, what's up with that, huh?" Those types of questions can help kind of solidify characters on stage. So a great way to practice using questions in improv is to play a game that's called Questions Only, where the actors are only allowed to interact with questions. And this is, a challenging game. You'll probably make mistakes, but don't worry, it's fun to just try and fail. And it's also a great way to look at what questions work better than other questions. So for example, a question like, "Where are we?" It's a question that reveals ignorance, and we don't want to show ignorance to the audience. We want to choose to know on stage. But another question like, "Why would you take me to the zoo on a Sunday?" That's a great question because it reveals emotion, it reveals a relationship, where we are, when it is, a lot of information in just that question that's asking for more information, right? And why questions are good questions to ask in improv, by the way. Why? It kind of just reveals motivation. It gives more clarity to the scene, as I said earlier. So try playing that game a little bit. It's a fun game. They play it on Whose Line Is It Anyway a lot. And it's a great way to just practice actually using questions to your advantage to actually tell an improvised story. Thank you so much for watching this episode of MUT Tips, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like down below or comment with a question that you'd like addressed in a future video. This video releases every Tuesday, so subscribe on YouTube or follow us on Facebook. We'll see you next week.